Hello there, welcome back. We've got even more Commander deck tech for you today. Magic the Gathering Marvel Universes Beyond is happening, and I am here for it. Today I'm bringing to you something I'm calling Absolute Punishment, an EDH Commander deck themed around the Punisher. You want to punish your opponents at the Magic the Gathering Commander table for everything they do. If you run this deck, everyone's going to hate you. I'm a little sick. I'm making myself laugh here because this deck is pretty brutal. It's just straight up punishment. You even punish yourself. Nobody's gonna have fun against this deck. In fact, you're probably gonna start playing your cards and get going, and your friends are just gonna tell you to leave, or they're just gonna ignore you and pretend you're not there. Let's just get right into the tech. It revolves around the commander. The man of the hour is not this commander, this Punisher Lo-Fi. It is Zozu the Punisher, Goblin Warrior, originally from the first Kamigawa block. I find the art on the reprint from one of these master sets, whatever it is, this looks better than the actual original art. Put that aside. Whenever our land enters the battlefield, so this is a very punishing effect. Deals 2 damage to that land's controller, even yourself. Really, the idea is have a bunch of cards out that no one's going to have fun around. But there is a win con for you. Let's start with the creatures. So, Crash Taunter. Whenever it's dealt damage, deals that much damage to target opponent. It's got indestructible. It fights another creature. So you have a way, something that's going to stay on the board and sustain damage and hurt your opponents at the same time. Another card, Harsh Mentor. Whenever an opponent activates an ability, artifact, creature, or land from the battlefield, if it isn't a mana ability, deals 2 damage to that player. So commander's loaded with these. Magus of the Moon. Non-basic lands are mountains. So you're going to piss off everybody at the commander table who is not a red player. You're going to turn all their command towers into mountains that they can't use. I think it'll just net them colorless mana. That's all they can do with it. But they're going to be in trouble. Really, so besides really just like punishment, it's punishing in the fact that it's annoying cards that are just a nuisance to deal with. So you're turning all their lands into mountains. This one gets even better. This one is going to screw with everybody's hand. You sack them. Each player discards their hand, then draws 7 cards. Another great card here. You got Mog Maniac. Whenever it's dealt damage, it deals that an equal amount of damage to target opponent. I didn't know they printed this on the list. That's news to me. Does anybody remember this card? This is a great card. Look at the art. They don't make art like that anymore. Anyway, whenever it's dealt damage, it deals an equal amount of damage to target opponent. So if you get attacked with a big something stupid your way, just block it and be like, okay, chump, you're taking that damage too. Orcish Settlers. You can destroy your opponent's lands. Rampaging Ferocidon. So you're going to see later on all the things here that cause your opponent to take damage. They're not going to be able to get around it. So Zozu is going to be punished them anytime they play a land. Whenever that creature enters, this is going to deal 1 damage to that creature's controller. So you're punishing your opponent, and it gets better. Rug of Smothering. Whenever a player casts a spell, they lose 1 life for each spell they've cast this turn. The Sisters of the Flame. This is one of the first few cards I ever owned that was given to me by my brother. It adds mana, really, because you'll see why later on why you want to add that mana. This guy's a lot of fun. I call him Mr. Shuffle-Upagus. Target player shuffles his or her library. So if your opponent does Vampiric Tutor or Scheming Symmetry, that tutor where you both put a card on the top of your library, this soldier ruins all of it, as well as Mystical Tutor, Idyllic Tutor, or Worldly Tutor. Tutors for stuff that puts it on top, this guy's going to ruin their day. I don't have the combo in this deck, but there's a way, there's a card you can put on him that you can use the ability shuffle target player's library. They shuffle their library. Then you can untap him. So you can perpetually just make your opponent stuck in the doom loop of shuffling. I wouldn't recommend it in a tournament setting. You'll just be considered slow play, and the judge will be like, all right, what's the point of this? How does it resolve? You can't just do that for no reason. Stone Shaker Shaman. Whenever at the end of each player's turn, that player sacks an untapped land. So you're punishing them, making sure they use all their mana. And you're going to see later on why that matters. Torbont, in the red fill. If a red source you control deal damage to an opponent or a permanent, does that much damage +2 instead. So Zozu, this guy, they're going to take 4 damage total every time they play a land. Sorceries, these are even meaner. Acidic Soil, 1 damage for each opponent for each land they control. Cathartic Reunion helps you sift through the deck. Tormenting Voice, you draw this card, get through the deck. This one's fun. Winds of Change. All players shuffle their hands in our library, then draw the same number of cards they originally held. Chain Lightning. You can turn this around on an opponent, see if they want to use it. Just make sure they don't use it on your Zozu, or else you're going to be in trouble. But you can deal some damage and spot removal. Faithless Looting. You know what this does. It helps you draw cards. Actually, just reprinted. Well, I shouldn't say just reprinted. It was taken off the modern ban list. But I bet my bottom dollar this is going to be reprinted in the Innistrad Remaster. Somebody come back and comment when that happens. Fireball, X damage, divided evenly, rounded down. Costs 1 more to cast for each target beyond the first. So you can deal a bunch of damage with this. Good spot removal. Pyroclasm, destroy 2 damage to each creature. Of a red source you control, the damage to, you go back to your Torban. So it deals 2 damage. Torban, everything's taking 4 damage. And, yeah. And so what happens is, if it deals 4 damage, it's going to deal 4 damage to Mog Maniac and Brash Taunter. Your opponent's going to take that damage too. Another great card, Shatterstorm, destroy all artifacts. Soul Rings, Arcane Signets, all the mana rocks everybody knows and loves, they're gone. You're pissing everybody off. Everybody's been mad at you. Even their spot cards that help them, like give their creatures any kind of evasion, is going to be bye-bye. Swiftfoot Boots, Lightning Greed, Flava Spur Boots, you're going to be destroying those. Their Thran Dynamos, their mana rocks. This is why this deck is called Absolute Punishment. Cathartic Pyre, instant, deals damage. You can potentially deal 6 damage to something thanks to Torban, and it helps you get through your deck. Pyretic Ritual, you can get your mana out pretty quick. Seething Song, same thing. And you're going to need this later on. You'll see why. Let's just get right to it. So I put Mana Barbs in this deck as the ultimate form of punishment. Each time any land is tapped for mana, it deals 1 damage to that land creature's controller. That land's controller. So people are tapping land all game in Commander. With Torban on the table, they're going to take extra damage. With Furnace of Wrath, they're taking double the damage. So Torban, Mana Barbs, Furnace of Wrath. So red source deals damage, 1 damage. They're taking 3 damage. That's doubled. They're going to take 6 damage every time they tap a land for mana. Absolute punishment. That's why I loaded this deck up, because the Mana Barbs with Sisters of the Flame to help you maximize your mana. Pyretic Ritual and Seething Song. Some other mana rocks to help you survive a little bit longer. I've got Heart of Ramos, Fire Diamond, and Dark Steel Ingot, as well as Ruby Medallion to help you reduce cost. I've got a Soul Ring if you don't end up destroying it. But some other cards that are going to just be completely punishing and annoying. I've got Caltrops. Whenever a creature attacks, Caltrops deals 1 damage to it. So Torban, they're going to be taking 3 damage. Well, no, it's not. It's a red source. I backed that up. So anytime a creature attacks, if you have Furnace of Wrath out, they're going to take 2 damage. So you're going to be punishing people even more. Creature attacks, 1 damage to it, which can be annoying in combat because they'll take 1 damage, and then you can block, and potentially dealing lethal. So Dark Steel Plate and Mithril Coat I put in this deck to give your Zozu and other creatures indestructible for things like Pyroclasm, so you have a constant body in the table that can take the damage. So your commander to survive. But if you put this on your Brash Taunter or Mog Maniac, you have a permanent blocker that can just deal a ton of damage with stuff like your Torban on the table and your Furnace of Wrath. Another good one here is Shield of Kaldra, indestructible. Dude is indestructible. Basically, you have 3 different ways of making your stuff indestructible to really take advantage. Soul Ring, Mana Rock. This one's a lot of fun. Jun-2 Stakes. Creatures with power 1 or less don't untap their controller's untap step. So, all the Birds of Paradise, Ornithopters, any kind of weaks like Spirit Tokens, Saprolings, they're not going to untap, which is a real pain in the ass. Another one, Troll Move, Punishment. Creatures with power 3 or greater don't untap. So 1 or less don't untap, 3 or greater don't untap. Another one I put in here just for punishment to really make things interesting is all attacking creatures gain +1/0. So everything is going to have +1/0, and it's going to be subject to the power 3 or greater, potentially. It'll fall off at end of combat, so I guess they'll be able to untap. Dude, I just realized that now. Good job, Benson. So this one's fun. Storm Cauldron. This is going to be a headache. Each player may play an additional land during each of their turns. Whenever a land is tapped for mana, return it to its owner's hand. So they're going to play a land. Excuse me. Take damage. Do stuff. Again, absolute punishment. I dare you to run this in the commander table. Something else I want to have in this deck. I put the actual Meek Stone and Might Stone in this deck. The actual cards this is based on. This is the combined card from Brothers War. ETB, choose one, draw two. Dark Creature expands 5/5 until end of turn. Add 2 generic. Can't be spent to cast non-artifact spells, so it helps you get your artifacts out, helps you protect your stuff. It's got a little bit going on here. So, as far as the enchantments we haven't discussed, this is one of the first cards I ever owned as well. During each player's discard phase, deals 2 damage to that player unless one of her opponents has successfully dealt damage that turn, basically forcing your opponents to attack. So, if you have Torban out and you have this out and you have Furnace of Wrath, that's 2, 4, 8 4 right there, 8 damage. Your opponent's going to be sorry. So it's like attack or else. Another good one here, Troll Move, Blood Moon, a little bit redundant, non-basic lands or mountains. So that's going to be fun. And it's not going to matter to you because you just need red mana. You don't really care. This one's a lot of fun. Citadel of Pain. Beginning of each player, at each end of each player's turn, X damage to that player, where X is the number of untapped lands they control, so they're punished. You're damned if you do and damned if you don't. This one's also fun. Maddening Hex to curse. When an enchanted player casts a non-creature spell, roll a d6, deals damage to that player equal to the result. Then attach Maddening Hex to another one of your opponents at random. So everyone's going to hate you really hard, really bad. And they might not even have the resources to stop you, because all game long, they're going to be tapping their mana barbs, getting pinged and ripped to shreds. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So you roll a d6. You roll a 6 with Furnace of Wrath. They're going to be taking 12 with Torban on the table. They're going to be taking 2 more. That's just nasty. So you're going to lose a lot of friends. This one's fun. Spell Shock, one of the Urza sets. When a player successfully casts a spell, 2 damage to her. So again, Torban and Furnace of Wrath. Torban on the table, 2 and 2. That's 4 Furnace of Wrath. So anytime they cast a spell, they're potentially taking 8 damage. This one's Sulfuric Vortex. Beginning of each player's upkeep, deals 2 damage to that player. Player would gain life, they lose life instead. So nobody's going to gain any life with your Ferocidons, but this is going to keep dealing damage continuously. I'm not going to mention Torban again. You get the idea. This one's even more fun. Troll Move on your opponent's lands. Tectonic Instability. Whenever a land comes into play, tap all land its controller controls. This one, War's Toll. Whenever an opponent taps a land for mana, tap all lands that player controls. If a creature an opponent controls attacks, all creatures that opponent controls attack if able. Force your opponent's stuff into combat. All damage is doubled, so if you have your Furnace of Wrath out and your opponent's creatures are basically goaded, forced to attack, your opponents and their creatures are going to be taking extra double damage. So for you, if they come your way, you want to block with your Brash Tundra, you want to block with your Mog Maniacs, with your Torban on the table, don't forget that 2 damage, and just start ruining people's day. I think everybody's going to hate you. This deck is Frank Castle incarnate. It is absolute punishment. Even some of the lands here are just mean. I put Desert in the deck. Deals 1 damage to target attacking creature. I'm not going to mention Furnace of Wrath again. Pretty old school card. It's cool that it got reprinted. 1 damage to attacking creature. They attack, just ping it. Other lands in the deck. This Desert, you can cycle if you don't need it. This comes into play tapped. It's one of the Karoo lands. It's like those Ravnica lands that ETB tap that adds 2 mana. You have to return a mountain you control, or it gets sacrificed. So it takes a little. When it untaps, though, it's basically 2 mana and 1. It helps you around the mana barbs. Forgotten Cave, you can cycle. This is a charge land. You can tap this, remove the 5 charge counters, add 5 mana, but only take 1. Take limited damage from mana barbs. Generic mountains. This Needle is the same thing. Adds 2 mana, but it depletes itself when the 2 counters come off. You sack it. Another cycling land. I think I overlooked this. I got Urza's Arbor, a Bitestone, a Meekstone, got a little bit of Urza flair here. Whenever a sword successfully deals damage here, that damage is reduced by 1. So if you get this out early enough, you can prevent a lot of the damage. You won't take any damage from mana barbs. Your opponents will, and they're going to hate you for it. Just make sure you don't cast that Shatterstorm and ruin your own day. Another great card here, Den of the Bugbear. It gets around some of those cantrips, the Caltrops, and things like Ensnaring Bridge, as well as the Juntu Stakes, because it turns back into a land and you continuously have it. You get your dudes back. And really, that's it. That's that. This is a fun little deck. You're going to upset a lot of people very quickly, very fast. You might even lose some friends, but go ahead and give it a try. This deck, according to Moxfield, it's only 240 bucks. You could probably do a lot less. Maybe come down on some of the older cards. Let me know what you think. I can't believe the price of this Pyretic Ritual. That's $6. But there's definitely... This is a good time. I really legitimately might build this on paper. For limited times, I do play Paper Commander. I'm going to run this and make everybody hate me. Anyway, your buddy Benson here signing off with an absolute punishment build. Frank Castle, Magic the Gathering, Marvel is a real thing. This is my spin on it. A Punisher deck. And how to lose friends fast in a game of Commander. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. What additions, changes, subtractions would you make to this deck? What would you think to this deck? I'm going to put a link in the description so you can view it on Moxfield, and feel free to build it yourself. And, you know, disclaimer, it is not my fault. I cannot be held reliable or responsible if you lose friends. Anyway, everyone, Zozu the Punisher, Frank Castle, Punishment, signing off. Have a great night. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks, everyone.